Sometimes I'm asked what chemical reaction has had the greatest impact on the world. There's no easy answer, but I'll give you my idea. I think it's polymerization. What does that mean? It means when you take small molecules and you join them together to make a long chain or polymer. That's what we're doing symbolically here, but we can do that in the lab. You can take ethylene and make it into polyethylene, the stuff that I bring my lunch in. That's polyethylene. But of course, there are all kinds of plastics that we use. We live in a plastic world. Just think about it. You remember compact discs? Of course, they're made of plastic. The styrofoam cups, the labware that we use, the coffee that we brew these days, plastic everywhere. We package our food in plastics. My blueberries come in plastic. But then there's a problem, and we're becoming more and more familiar with that problem, and that is all of the plastic garbage that builds up. We're being overrun with it. So obviously, there are all kinds of efforts to cut down on our use of plastics. We don't really need the single-use knives and forks. We can do without this. Believe it or not, we can actually drink from ceramic cups. They do exist. But the question is, how can we have the biggest impact on cutting down on the environmental impact on plastics? A lot of talk these days about bioplastics. Well, what are they? There are many different versions. The kind of bioplastic that makes the most sense that we look for are plastics that are made from renewable resources, that is from plant materials, and which will degrade easily after we discard them. Well, there's one such plastic now that gets a lot of publicity called PLA, polylactic acid. This is made from corn. And from corn, we can, through a fermentation process, produce lactic acid that can be polymerized into polylactic acid. This is broken down by bacteria. So when you discard it, it becomes part of the environment. It does release carbon dioxide that becomes humus, which gets into the ground, which is all good. However, one thing that people don't really understand is that biodegradation only happens in an industrial compost facility. You put that cup in your backyard, it will be there for years. So they've made a lot of this biodegradation that really isn't scientifically sound. And you may have heard a lot about the green bottle. Coca-Cola has made a big deal out of that, saying that their bottles are now made in a green fashion, that is, that they are made from plant material. Well, these bottles are made of a polyester called polyethylene terephthalate. It is very, very useful, and it is indeed recyclable, but it's made from petroleum resources. Coca-Cola and others have found a way to take corn, and from corn, again through a fermentation process, convert it to the raw materials that are needed to piece together the polyester. So it's called a bioplastic. But the fact is that the end product is the same as what has been made from petroleum. It is still not biodegradable. Recyclable, yes, but not biodegradable. And much of the hype about bioplastics falls into this kind of category. It is very interesting. Maybe there's some hope for the future, but right now bioplastics are not going to replace the plastics. In fact, only about 1% of all the plastic that is produced is bioplastic. We have had this love affair with plastics, that's for sure. Justifiably so. We can't live without them. Our cars are made of plastic. Our airplanes couldn't fly without plastics. Our hospitals couldn't function without plastics. Yes, they have a downside in terms of discarding, but unfortunately, bioplastics right now are not going to provide that answer. Maybe in the future, we can really come up with the ultimate, a plastic that is really made from renewable resources and which biodegrades easily. not requiring an industrial compost facility. In the meantime, I think we can get rid of the single-use plastics and use renewable plastics. That at least is a step forward.